swing, swing, not today, swing, swing. Hi, Mama.
Hi everybody, it's Sabrina here. I'm going to apologize first of all for the fan in the background. I don't really feel like getting up and turning it off now. This is going to be my official 41-week update. I figured that I would do one anyway since I was pregnant for 6 out of the 7 days of the week. So yeah, my 41-week update with the baby. I'm still kind of in disbelief. I have a baby. He's here, and I'm still like, I don't know. It's crazy. Anyways, for the most part, my week consisted of a lot of nesting. I have a video just prior to my due date. I cleaned our bedroom. I washed the carpet and did a lot of dusting and cleaning and such. And then middle of last week, I went and I took apart our bed pretty much, and all the fabric in the bed was washed. The bed skirt, the mattress itself. I actually have a spray from Norwex that I used, and so I did a major cleaning on that. Then there was also my kids' room. So all 4 of the beds got stripped and washed and put back together again, which is quite the feat when you're big and pregnant too, especially since one of them was a bunk bed. Putting a sheet on a bunk bed is not fun. But it got done. So now the kids all had clean bedding. I ended up washing... Hi, you're weak? I ended up washing the carpet in the living room just on a random whim. One day I was like, oh, haven't washed this carpet in a bit. Let's just pull out the carpet cleaner and wash that too. So got that done. And then my mom came over because I wanted to clean underneath the stove and fridge. And so she came over. She actually did that for me because I was unable to properly move things. And I was just like, I don't know if I even want to start with this. So she actually came and did that for me. And so yeah, nesting, massive nesting. I found also that my patience level was wearing thinner and thinner and thinner throughout the week. Mostly just like because messes would happen so quickly. The kids would play with something and then their toys would be left on the floor. So I have a system in my house where we call it the sad box. If the kids leave toys out and I've told them to clean them up and they've gone to bed and the toys aren't cleaned up, Mommy cleans them up and they go into the sad box. And in order to get a toy out of said box, you now need to do a chore of Mommy's choosing, and then you get to pick one toy. So if you forgot 5 toys outside of your room, on the floor, on the counter, wherever, you have to do 5 different chores to get all 5 of those toys back. The oldest 2 have done very well. They don't tend to get very much in that sad box. The younger 2, actually the youngest one, well, technically he's the youngest one now. The 2-year-old doesn't really care either way at this point, but the 4-year-old, that box is pretty much all her stuff. So yeah. It's most of the time it's a good system. Yeah, oh, look at that, his eyes are open. Don't know if you can see him in the video. Say hi. Say hi, little baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you wave too. Oh, there we go. Anyways, so most of the week saw me doing a lot of cleaning and just trying to eat. It's been harder. It was harder to eat the last week of pregnancy. Was running out of room, I suppose. And oh my goodness, I got some just interesting stuff. The labor was really, really weird. I know I've said before that labor for every child is different. Pregnancy for every child is different. The labor with him, I mean, he's my fifth, and I would have really fast labors. So I was expecting similar, right? You know, really quick labor, contractions would start, they'd get close together, and boom, we go to the hospital, and away we go. Not so. It was very, very different. Basically Thursday night, I would not sleep. I could not sleep. I kept getting up. I had to use the bathroom multiple times. My body was cleaning out, as one of the things that you could get as a symptom of the onset of labor. It's going to start soon. Not everybody gets it. Not everybody goes to labor right after they get that. I looked at it as though this was very similar to my third. I got the shakes. I had the shakes for most of the night. I just could not get comfortable. I had the shakes with my third as well, and she was born the next day. So I was like, okay, this is coming close. I'm not in labor yet, but this is coming close. At about 2 in the afternoon on Friday, I started feeling contractions. Now, all day Friday, I could not eat. I literally forced food in because I knew labor was starting very soon. And I knew that in order to get through labor, you need energy, you need rest, you need to have sustenance of some kind. So I was eating just little things here and there, trying to make sure I was getting something in, but it was not much. Like, I had my doctor's appointment on Friday, so I went in to see them, and I was asking, how things were going, and I was saying, things are weird. Like, I just felt really weird, and I couldn't eat. I had, that morning, usually for breakfast, I'll have 2 eggs and a piece of toast with peanut butter and half a banana and maybe some cereal and a glass of milk, and so I usually have quite large breakfasts, and then I'll have another snack before lunch. That day I had a grand total of half an egg. I couldn't even finish the whole egg. I think I had a little bit of pineapple with cottage cheese because I was wanting the sweetness of fruit, but I knew I needed protein as well, so I put some cottage cheese in that. And I had a glass of milk. That was my entire morning because my appointment was actually at noon. So, and he was looking at that too. He's like, "You're getting pretty close then, and didn't necessarily want to get my hopes up though, because with my last one I went 13 days over. So, yeah, I ended up, oh, there we go. Ended up just finally was able to eat more so in the afternoon. I wanted fruit juice more than anything. Juices. I didn't want to eat stuff that you needed to digest as much, I guess. But, that was the other thing. I actually lost weight that week. I dropped about 2 pounds, a little more than 2 pounds. Between 2 and 3 pounds I dropped from my my almost 40-week appointment to my almost 41-week appointment. So that's another thing, though, that says that labor is very close if you just lose a bit of weight. He was still posterior. He was still actually right occipital. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Posterior. So he was ROP. Yeah. And so that's exactly opposite of 180 degrees of where you want them to be for labor. So we had gone shopping and whatnot, and around 2 p.m. I started getting contractions, and I started timing them because I was like, this feels like it's early labor. And I've heard of early labor. I have never really experienced early labor much for myself. Usually for me, I go straight into like an active labor where the contractions are steadily getting closer together. I consider it active labor when they're about 5 minutes apart. I don't know exactly what the line is for that, but I believe early labor is like when the contractions are like 10, 20 minutes apart, whatever it is. So they were 10 minutes apart, 2 o'clock, and I was timing them. We went home, kids went up, did some stuff. I needed them to separate themselves from each other because they were fighting. And about after about 2 hours, I was like, yeah, this is definitely like early labor I'm starting here. And the kids come down, and so I tell them this, but they're not getting, like, the contractions just stayed 10 minutes apart. They wouldn't get closer together. So I actually got my husband to take some funny pictures, because I'm on my ball and I'm doing all sorts of things trying to get these contractions to move along, trying to get him to turn, because I knew one of the big reasons they hadn't gotten closer was because he was not engaged fully yet. Like, he wasn't down there yet. He was still up a bit higher. And usually when my labors start, baby's head is right there. So nothing was working. I tried all sorts of spinning babies techniques and the Miles circuit and all sorts of stuff, all my ball things. Nothing was working. So he was just stubborn. You're being stubborn, right? Yeah. So anyway, that night I remember going to bed, I'm like, Lord, I need sleep. I had one night already where I had no sleep. Like, I don't even think I got maybe 10 minutes here or there. And I'm like, Lord, I need sleep. These contractions are 10 minutes apart. I don't know how I'm going to sleep. Because, I mean, they were just strong enough that I could feel them, and they weren't super comfortable. They weren't like Braxton's, where for Braxton, I just feel a tightening. I don't actually feel much of anything. These were a little more than that. And the Lord provided a way to make these contractions lessen enough that when I was in bed, I could feel them, but they weren't strong enough to wake me up once I did fall asleep. So that was great, because I actually got some sleep that night. Woke up in the morning, got up, went back to timing them. Yep, 10 minutes apart. Nothing had changed. And so that was my husband's weekend off. And we decided I wanted to stay home and try and get this baby to shift. So I was looking up all sorts of things, asking friends. One of my friends actually suggested a doula and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, well, to get a doula now, like, I'm going to have this baby today. I'm pretty sure of it. But yeah, we didn't get a doula, although one of my friends is a doula. So I had asked her what she suggested to do to try and rotate the baby, and I did all the things that she had suggested already pretty much. So nothing was working. I decided, let's go to town. Let's go for a walk. Walking up and down in the mall, and contractions still wouldn't converge. Still, like, it was already 2 in the afternoon. So 24 hours. It had been 24 hours where I had these silly contractions at 10 minutes apart. That said, that's really easy for labor. The 10 minutes apart, you have a contraction lasts 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I think some of mine were about 15 seconds. They're not that strong. And then you have this nice big break in between. So it's not bad at all. It's like, you know, you can still do everything that you would do otherwise. It's not a hard thing, you know. So I wasn't complaining. I was just like, well, I was not sure what was going on. I'm sitting there going, why won't this baby come? Like, what is going on here? I've never had a labor that was lasting this long. My firstborn, my labor was 15 hours, and that was long enough. And here I was already at 24. So I'm like, what's going on? Maybe I'm not in labor. I don't know. But anyways, we're walking around the mall, and my husband goes to get the vehicle, and I feel this pop. And I'm sitting there going, did my water just break? Because I have never, ever had my water break before. Well, before I'm in the hospital pushing out a baby. So, or the doctor does it. But I'm sitting there going, what is going on now? So I'm clenching my legs and walking towards the van. I'm like, this baby isn't low enough to stop the water if it is the water. So I don't know what's going on here. It wasn't, my water had not broken, but I had lost my plug. And I actually had some show, which I have never, ever experienced with my other 4. So, again, that was really odd. We went straight to my parents' house because they actually live in town. And my husband was like, okay, do I contact my other worker for the farm and have them come in for evening chores, because I have to get ready to go for evening chores soon. because it was about 2:30 at that point. He usually chores about an hour after that, and I was like, I think you need to contact them. I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm thinking that when it starts, it's going to be quick. But at the same time, I was just like, I don't know. It was really weird. So at my parents' house, the kids had their bags. They had them all in the van because they were like, I'm going to spend the night at Grandma's house. Yay! So I just kind of stayed at Mom's for a bit, and she fed us all something. Once again, I forced myself to eat some food just so that I have something for energy. And right after I ate, I decided instead of sitting, I would walk a little bit more. And then the contractions went to 5 minutes apart. So I'm like, oh, okay, something is happening now. And yeah, that was at about 3, I think. And then they didn't get much closer than 5 minutes apart. And at 4 o'clock, I had a contraction. But yeah, that particular contraction I could feel was a bit stronger. And right at the end of it, my water broke. And I felt so bad because here I am at my mom's house and I'm not expecting this sort of thing to happen because it's never happened before. And I've had 4 kids, you'd think I have a very strong bag of waters. Not this time. So I ran over trying to not make a mess because I'm just like, oh, it was so bad. I felt so bad for my poor mom. And yeah, so she's coming up with stuff for me to wear, and my husband's gathering stuff together, and I went to the hospital in my big winter boots without socks because I was not putting on runners that day. And my socks were not physically able to be worn at this point. And I'm wearing my mom's old pajama, like her pajama bottoms and stuff. I'm like, I look like a mess. So anyways, go to the hospital, and it was weird because on the ride to the hospital, I didn't have any contractions in the vehicle. So I'm like, this is dumb. Like, they were 5 minutes apart. They were maybe 4 minutes apart on some of them. They got maybe to 4 minutes apart. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, how am I going to last? How is he supposed to turn if the bag of waters is already broken? How is he supposed to turn? Because now he doesn't have that extra space to move in. So I'm thinking, like, how is this going to work? What is going on here? So we get to the hospital, and I had 2 contractions at the reception desk. I had 2 contractions trying to get to the maternity ward, and then my nurse greets me, and I know her actually from church from years ago, and she brings me into the room, and she's like, okay, well, let's check you. Let's see where you're at. And I'm sitting there going, Lord, if I'm only a 5 centimeter mark right now, I'm getting an epidural. I said, because this is going to take forever. I've been here for 26 hours now. Nothing's happened. If I'm only at a 5, I'm getting an epidural. And she goes, oh, you're fully dilated. You're ready to push this baby out. And I'm sitting there going, what? Like, how is that even possible? I never hit transition. Transition's the worst part, in my opinion. Pushing stage, you kind of feel like you can do something. The transition is always just so hard. And that's the part I fear the most when it comes to labor and delivery, is transition. And I remember asking God, please make it not painful. I remember asking him, I'm like, I know this is a really weird request because, like, really, labor, it's hard work. It's, it's a arduous process. And I'm like, Lord, please don't make it so bad. And he did. I didn't have a transition that I recall. I didn't know I was in a transition. I had no idea that it was even possible that I was fully dilated. And by the looks of things, because of my history, I probably had fully dilated at my mom's house. And the contractions were just such, his head was high enough up that he just didn't come yet. But I just remember, like, in that room, and then laying down, and she's telling the other nurse, we're delivering this baby, call the doctor, but he might not make it. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I got all this time in between contractions, and I'm like, this is weird. Totally it was very, very odd, very different from what I would have expected from my labor. Yeah, he came. The frustrating thing was the first few contractions I didn't push at all, and even though the nurse was trying to, you can push, and I'm like, no, I'm just going with what my body is doing. I don't know how to push physically right now. Because my muscles are so separated, I didn't know how to push. I don't know what to do right now. So I just kind of breathed through it, and that seemed to do what needed to be done, and he moved down. The doctor showed up, and they were telling me that I should try pushing now, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't know how to push. So I just remembered then one of the contractions actually started pushing on my own without thinking about it. The body does do it on its own if you let it. And then the next contraction, he started coming down. I could feel him crowning. I could feel him starting. And then the contraction ended and he went back up. And I was so mad. I was like, what? You just went back. You're not supposed to go back in. You're supposed to come out. So next one, his head came, and then the last one, then his body came, and they put him on me, and he ended up being 9 pounds, 8 ounces. I was like, that's the biggest baby I've had yet. And yeah, so it was just like, it was a whirlwind. So my water broke at 4 at my mom's house, and he was born at 4:54 at the hospital. I could not believe it. It was just so fast, and I thought I was maybe in early labor. I hadn't even, I don't know. It was crazy. Really good labor, actually. Think about it. It's really good. I would, if everybody could have labors like that, I'm sure there'd be a lot more babies in this world. So yeah, and then one of my biggest fears was of hemorrhaging. And I remember praying too, before I got pregnant with him, I prayed that I wouldn't hemorrhage. And so I did start to bleed a bit, and because of my history, they had to right away went and got on it, and I found out that I did not actually technically have a hemorrhage, because you have to lose 500 cc's in order for them to call it a hemorrhage. And the thing is too, when they measure it, the method of measuring it is not always precise, because you're losing more than just the blood as well. So they said that I ended up losing about 450. So I did not technically end up with a hemorrhage, which was fantastic. I didn't feel like I'd hemorrhaged either. It did not feel the same. With the placenta. So the placenta is something I've never taken much note of, but this time I could feel that it was definitely different, because I had learned about the brewer's diet, and how the brewer's diet, one of its big functions was to produce a really good, healthy placenta, which in turn helps to properly feed the growing baby. And also there would be a proper fresh pool of blood behind the placenta that will feed the placenta well and feed the baby. And I could tell when the placenta came that it was quite a bit bigger than what I was used to with all my other 4 babies. And my husband said later, I never got to see it. I kind of wish I would have. It's weird, because I never wanted to see it before, but now I was kind of curious because of the diet and everything else, and my husband said it was about twice the size of my others, so that would have contributed as well to the amount of weight gain that I was having. But yeah, it was crazy. The whole thing was it was insane. I look back on it and I just go what? So yeah, I will try and continue, maybe do some updates on how he's doing. He's almost a week old, and I'll maybe do an update when he's a week old about some of the changes and things that he's gone through for this first week. First week is hard. I'm thinking I will also maybe do a video on my belly changes, if anybody is curious about what it looks like with diastasis after labor. It's really weird. Actually, funny story, as we were leaving the hospital, he was like a day old, that's it, and somebody comes up to me and she saw all four of my kids, and my husband had him in the little carrier, and she's like, "Oh, you 5 kids?" She says. I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's a handful." And, "You're pregnant again?" I'm like, "No, I just gave birth." And then, you try not to try to say things in such a way so that they're not too embarrassed, because people just, I guess, you don't think about, yeah, the belly has been extended so far for so long. It's not gonna go all the way back that quickly. It takes a while. That is my 41-week update / labor and delivery story / stuff that's been happening shortly after birth and all that other stuff. So yeah, this little guy has fallen asleep on me here. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. I still can't believe he's here. Can't believe this was inside my tummy. I hope you guys all have a blessed week.